Hello, this is Victor and here with a new video. And yeah, I wanted to do this video as a continuation of the video that I just did yesterday. And here I want to tell just about dealing with the complexity in this business and what these companies are facing in terms of complexity. Because most of the our industrial processes are thought for big runs with low changes, but really our business or the business about wargaming, it's more or less on the opposite side. Normally in wargames, the companies need a lot of different options and shorter runs. First, because the market is not that big for long runs. Second is because we demand for a lot of variety. So this is quite a complex situation for most of these companies, and the bigger the company is, the most choiceful have to be on when dealing with this complexity. But I will say this impacts all the companies in different ways, but it's a thing that they have to take into account. Unless it's a company that is just starting, and yeah, and it's not really into that camp, but most of the big companies, Wizards of the Coast, Games Workshop, Privateer Priest, all the big companies, in such a way they have to deal with all these parts. So wargaming is a complex business. Is quite a complex. They have a lot of different references with a low volume of sales if you compare to any mass market product. You can say big companies have a lot of different references, but they have a big rotation, so they benefit for the big production runs with a lot of efficiency. But it's not the case in wargames, and this is why they use some of the techniques that in principle are not the most efficient in the manufacturing process, like casting with resin, or in the past casting with metal. Injection molding is quite efficient process, but it requires a lot of investment. So there is always this type of dilemma in this type of business. So of course this business demands a lot of different SKUs, what we call SKUs is also different items, is in references at the point of sales, and yeah, and what this drive to different difficulties is in the incoming materials, uh, especially the packing materials, because normally these companies will not do the printing of the cases. They will need to order these cases. Uh, this causes a problem because most of these packing materials they will need to balance, and I will talk later on more detail. Other things that are going to be impacting is the manufacturing planning in terms of the injection or casting and the packing of this of the parts. And at the end, also all this managing of all this inventory as an incoming and end of product inventory, it's also a big deal and can be really complex. So if we start talking about incoming materials, they will always you always face a dilemma between quantity versus cost. Normally the printing runs or the printing of cardboards or printing of any material, it's set up for long runs and low cost per part, but you need to do a lot of quantity. When you go to techniques that allow you to do less quantity, the cost starts increasing. So do you always have this balance between how much you want to do and what is the cost per part? Of course, if you do too much and you don't need that many parts, you're going to pay a lot, and you are going to have you will need a lot of inventory of incoming materials. Imagine that, for example, you need to do, I don't know, boxes for one of your miniatures, okay? And you need to produce 1,000 miniatures, but the minimum order quantity is 10,000 to have a price that is competitive. At the end, you produce 10,000, you use 2,000, and you have to keep 9,000 in your warehouse. If you multiply this for all the references that you are doing, the inventory, you can understand, is multiplying by a lot, and you will need a lot of inventory and a lot of block material at the incoming of your manufacturing. So and then maybe you go for shorter runs, but then the costs start increasing, and then yeah, and then you are not as competitive. This is why we see some small companies, they cannot afford some of the premium printed cases because they are associated to longer runs, and this is a thing that they have really to balance and to deal with, and yeah, and I will say this is part of the complex. So yeah, and this is related at the end to the volume that I was talking yesterday, but let's talk this at the end. In the manufacturing, also you have a same type of dilemma. You have always the fight between efficiency and flexibility. Each time you change your reference in your line, you have a changeover time. During this changeover, you don't produce. You have your people just taking out the old material, the old reference that you just finished, and they have to go for the new material, for the new reference, and to start producing. If we talk about molds, for example, in injection molding, you will not have a machine for each mold. So each time that you want to inject a new part, you have to unhang the mold and hang the new one on the machine. So you have a change over time. If you do very short runs of very little reference, you will be more time changing molds than producing. And this is going to be extremely expensive because molds are cheap, because they can produce big quantities with a lot of efficiency. When you start doing changeovers, your efficiency is completely dropping. The same in the packing line. If you are once you have injected all these parts, you have to pack them in different ways. If you do a clamp pack, you have to put the clamp pack, you have to put the carton or the cardboard inside, and then the miniature. All this takes time. And if you have to do changeover, normally in a line, you have to remove the old material and put the new one, and put the new miniatures there, and then be sure that the systems can detect that you're not missing anything on all this time and you're not missing anything. Of course, we have seen sometimes there are errors because they deal with a lot of complexity. So again, if you have a lot of different products, you will have more risk of making mistakes and then having quality incidents. So this is why they always have to balance how many references they can deal with and what are the long runs. Of course, the other option is you produce a lot of one thing. For example, imagine that you're going to launch a new game. So you produce a big run of this game, but then you will have all this material held in inventory until you're selling. So it's always a balance between how much you want to produce, so what is your minimum order quantity on your production site, what is the cost of the inventory, because this will have a cost because you have to rent a warehouse or you have to have a place to have all this material, and also balance this with the changeover time, with the flexibility you have in your lines. And here I just wanted to put in these pictures as a fun. So a knife is very efficient, have one purpose, but only can do one thing. If you want something that have more uses, you can go to a Swiss knife. And if you go very extreme on the Swiss knife, you have the picture at the bottom. So this is again, this is all the balance you need to understand about your when you're doing the manufacturing. Of course, if you try to cut something with the knife at the bottom, it's not going to be efficient at all. This knife can do a lot of things, but none of them can be done efficiently. On the other side, the knife can cut very efficiently, but most likely is not going to be the best tool to open cans or to do other type of activities. And the knife, the Swiss knife that is more on the right size, can do a lot of things. Not the most efficient in all the things, but quite good and give you more options. So this is more or less what you have to think when you're doing planning your manufacturing. You want to do long runs, very efficient is a knife, you only do one thing, or you want to change over your shift and then you lose a little bit of efficiency, but you have more variety. If you go to the extreme at the bottom, you are not efficient at all, and maybe you are not doing the right thing. Of course, as I said, if you want to do long runs, you're going to produce a lot of material and then you will need to manage a huge inventory. And anyway, any of these companies, they need to manage some inventory and very complex, and complex in the point that they will have really a lot of different references. They have more references than most of the companies, because if you just think how many type of miniatures we have for each army and how many things they have to deal with only with 2 games, it's a lot of references with low volume of sales compared to any other standards in the industry. And this makes the inventory management very complex, because then they want to sell in the website most likely, and then they want to go to retail, and in the case of the one shot on top, they have to deal with the shops. They want to guarantee that all the shops and at all time they can have some of these miniatures. So this is the reason why when we start seeing in Games Workshop with the miniatures that don't have a lot of demand, they run out and they don't want to put them on the stores, and they only have them by website at the website. It's because it's not easy for them or it's not possible for them to guarantee that they can supply all the shops in the world and having long runs, because it makes no sense. Because if they want to produce just knights for you and they don't have on the inventory, they will need to do some thousands, and then they will need the other ones to be held in the production line. So this is why they have to be choiceful which channels they use to sell the miniatures and what is the most efficient way for them to sell the miniatures. On the other side, the things that have a lot of demand, that they have a lot of success, they can do long runs and they can ship to the different shops. Then when they see that the inventory is going down, then they can they can do another run and increase again the inventory, and it makes more sense. So and at the end of this story, what I want to explain is this is the reason why companies cannot maintain infinite numbers, or they cannot maintain all the references along the life of they should start eliminating all references that don't sell. And doesn't mean that they have to retire the older ones, means that they have to stop producing the ones that they are not giving money, that they are not selling, because at the end all these cost money. Changeovers cost money, inventory costs money, and ordering incoming materials and not using them also is costing money. So and this is just is explanation, more detailed explanation, why the volume of sales is important and why you need a minimum volume of sales to make a product efficient, or to make a product a good deal for business. If you don't arrive to threshold of volume, then it's not interesting for the company to produce. And this threshold will depend a lot on how big is your company. If normally smaller companies, and also on the production systems. If you go for injection molding, you cannot do short runs. You need long runs. This mold is costing a lot of money. You need to sell a minimum to amortize the mold. And each time you hold this mold on the line, you want at least to do a minimum production. On the other side, the casting is a type of process that demands less capital and give a little bit more flexibility. And it's a system that is not that efficient, so the changeover is not as impactful as can be on the injection molding. So depending on the size of the company, depending on the technologies that you are using, you can have more or less, your volume of sales have to be more or less higher to be efficient and to be good for business. So that's all what I want to explain on that video. I just want to show you a little bit of scope why this business, the wargaming, is so complex, and why sometimes they have to release some of the products from the shelf. So yeah, as I say, I'm really looking forward to see your comments. I hope you find this interesting, and please let me know if you think that this type of videos are interesting for you or not, and I can try to dive more on some of these concepts that I explained here if you are interested on that. I just wanted to give you the point of view really from production and from efficiency point of view. I know from a person like me that we like to have always all the miniatures on the shelf. Is a little bit of pain in the neck to see that some miniatures are disappearing, but once you analyze this from the business point of view, it's making more sense. Some of the decisions that sometimes Games Workshop is doing, and not only Games Workshop, all the companies have to do these choices in one point. And if they're not doing these choices, it's because they are not selling all the volume they create. They are not selling all the products they have, and they still have some remnants in the warehouse. But this is another reason why most of these companies try to go with some limited edition miniatures, and they sell them as a limited edition, because it's not, they just do a run, they start the run and they sell until this is sold, and then they go for the next design, and they don't keep some of the miniatures for a long time in the stock, because that's the way they are more efficient. So you just produce, I don't know, 50,000 of one miniature, or 5,000 of a fixed miniature. You sell them all, and when you sell, you don't have to concern anymore on inventory, on minimum order quantities, and on flexibility in your production, because your production will always focus on making these long runs. You sell everything, and then you go for the next run, for the next product. So yeah, please let me know, what do you think? Let me know your opinion. What do you think about this? Also, I would like to see, I would like to have some feedback if you find these videos interesting or not. For now, that's all. As usual, thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate that. And if you want to support my channel, please, I just want to let you know that I have a Patreon account, so in case you want to support my channel. As usual, yeah, as I said, thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye.